John T. Starkey, my third great-grandfather, was born on March 20th, 1840, in Tyler County, Virginia. His parents were Samuel Starkey Sr. and Rebecca Edgell Starkey. This Starkey line, which originated in England, arrived in the New World in the early 1600s in Plymouth, Massachusetts, migrated through New Hanover, New Jersey, and Somerset, Pennsylvania in the 1700s, before establishing roots in the early 1800s in what is now West Virginia. In the early 1840s, this area was still very much part of the frontier. Rather than crossing the Blue Ridge and Appalachian Mountains, white settlers came down to this area from Pennsylvania. John's father, Samuel Starkey, received a land grant for 50 acres in Tyler County, Virginia on July 19, 1828. The document is signed by Virginia Governor William Branch Giles. Land grants during this time were often issued to encourage settlement in sparsely populated areas. Census records often provide a wealth of information about a family. We know from the 1850 census that, while John's father, Samuel, is listed as literate, his mother, Rebecca, could neither read or write. Samuel's occupation is listed as a farmer, and his land is said to be valued at $300, which today would be approximately $8,800. John, at age 10, is not indicated to have attended school within the last year, but one of his four siblings, Samuel Jr., age 15, has attended school. John T. Starkey married Melinda Fetty on Sunday, May 31, 1857. At the time, he was 17 and she was 23. Together they would have 5 children. It was in April 1861 that the Commonwealth of Virginia decided to leave the United States of America and join the Confederate States of America. According to History.com, quote, "In the wake of Virginia's secession, a convention of delegates from Western Virginia met in Wheeling in 1861 for the purpose of forming the state of Kanawha, which incorporated 39 counties. The name honored a Native American tribe and also a major river of the same name. When the Constitution for the proposed state was finalized in 1862, however, the name had changed to the more generic West Virginia." End quote. On June 20, 1863, statehood was granted to West Virginia. Curiously, after the Revolutionary War, those in West Virginia sought to form a new state, which would have been called Westsylvania. Even though most areas of the newly formed state remained remote and rugged, young men felt compelled to take sides and fight during the Civil War. John T. Starkey joined the Union Army on Wednesday, December 3, 1862, and was mustered in on Friday, January 9, 1863. He was assigned to the Independent Company B of the 7th West Virginia Infantry. During the months of March and April 1863, John is listed as absent, detached, and out on scouting duty during raid. Unfortunately, there's no additional information about this activity. Records indicate that John is present during the months of May through August 1863. The Battle of Gettysburg occurred from July 1st through 3rd, 1863, and we know that the West Virginia Infantry was present. There are no records that indicate that John participated in this battle. From September 1863 through February 1864, John is listed as sick in quarters, while the Blood of Farmers provides a fairly detailed account of John's service. The nature of his illness is not clear. On Friday, March 25, 1864, it is recorded that John T. Starkey mustered out of service, completing just over a year of his 3-year commitment. Interestingly, 2 days later, John re-enlists for a term of 3 years. This time, he is assigned to Company D of the 7th Infantry. At the time, he is reported to be 23 years old, with a light complexion, blue eyes, and dark hair. His occupation is listed as farmer. Shortly after re-enlisting on May 5, 1864, John, along with 2 of his cousins, find themselves present at the Battle of the Wilderness just west of Fredericksburg, Virginia. The battles of Laurel Hill and Spotsylvania shortly follow. John's fate is chronicled in The Blood of Farmers by Randy Starkey. Quote, "John T. Starkey was officially shown as wounded sometime between May 10th and May 14th, 1864. The original military records cannot confirm the exact date of his wounding. An eyewitness account, which follows, sheds light on why John himself was unsure. It is my educated belief that John was wounded during his unit's assault on Laurel Hill on May 10th, 1864, between 4:30 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. I make my case based on what is known. It is during this attack I believe that John T. Starkey was wounded. It was the only time during the 4-day period noted that 7th was subjected to artillery fire. John T. was wounded in both the forehead and shoulder by an exploding canister. The head wound no doubt affected John's memory of events. Consider his fellow soldier's eyewitness account. William Shreve, in a pension affidavit, wrote, John T. Starkey was injured by the bursting of a shell at or near the top of his head. Said shell tore away the crown of his hat, knocked him prostrate upon the ground, and seemed to make him blind and deaf and crazed by the concussion of said shell bursting, and he was carried from the battlefield by his comrades." End quote. John found himself being treated at Campbell General Hospital in Washington, D.C. on May 29, 1864. He is listed as absent on furlough. From The Blood of Farmers, quote, Private John T. Starkey was treated in a hospital in Washington, D.C. He was granted a recuperative furlough in June of 1864 to return July 1864. He went home to his farm in Wetzel County, West Virginia. He failed to return from furlough. His official statement was that he had been too ill to return as required since he was being treated for pneumonia. The Army, desperate for troops and unsympathetic, tracked him down. He was arrested at his farm on January 9, 1865 by Deputy United States Marshal Jesse T. Snodgrass. He was taken first to Wheeling, West Virginia, and then to Cumberland, Maryland on January 12th. He was tried by General Court-Martial for desertion on February 27, 1865, and found guilty. He was sentenced to be returned to his unit under guard to make up all time lost and to forfeit $10 per month of his private's pay of $13 for a period of 12 months. Interestingly, the bounty for his arrest was $30, which would be $478 today. After his arrest, John is listed as once again being at Campbell General Hospital in Washington, D.C. on February 28, 1865. In March and April of that same year, he is listed on the muster roll of the USA Depot Field Hospital, City Point, Virginia. City Point later became known as Hopewell. Perhaps most intriguing is John was present at the Depot Field Hospital on April 8, 1865, when President Lincoln visited and shook the hands of more than 5,000 injured soldiers. While we will never know for sure, it is quite possible that John had the honor of meeting his Commander-in-Chief, President Lincoln. John mustered out from service on June 15, 1865. At some point during his service, his wife Matilda died. Records do not indicate the exact date or cause of death, but it is estimated that she died sometime in 1864. It is not clear who may have taken care of their young children during his absence and convalescence. John married Elizabeth Ann Barker, my third great-grandmother, on Monday, February 26, 1866. At the time, he was 25 and she was 23. Together they would have 7 children. On Monday, September 20th, 1869, my second great-grandfather, David Zachariah Starkey, was born. The 1870 census lists John T. Starkey as a farmer and his wife Elizabeth as keeping house. The value of his real property is listed at $1,000 and the value of his personal property is listed at $250. In present-day value, that would equate to a net worth of just over $24,000. The census data further indicates that neither John or Elizabeth could read or write. Only the eldest male child in the household is recorded as having attended school. Since so few Civil War battles were fought in West Virginia, there was little need for reconstruction. However, the rural life of the region was poised to benefit from the coming industrialization and big business era of the late 19th century. Immigration and urbanization during this time significantly impacted life in the United States. Mass production, the concentration of capital, and large-scale farming all worked together to disrupt the agricultural way of life. Railroads, coal, and oil were about to transform the landscape of rural West Virginia. On the 1880 census, John was again listed as farmer and Elizabeth, his wife, was listed as housekeeper. They are both again listed as illiterate. John's oldest son, Alpheus, 21, and his wife, Sarah, 18, live with the family. My great-great-grandfather, David, is 11 years old, has attended school during the year, and is listed as working on the farm. It is interesting to note that John applied for an invalid disability associated with his Civil War injury on December 29, 1875. Since the 1890 census records were all but destroyed by fire, the next record of the family is reflected in the 1900 census. At this time, John and Elizabeth have 3 sons living at home with them between the ages of 17 and 28. John is listed as unable to work, and it is indicated that they no longer live on a farm, but rather rent a house. According to the early history of West Virginia's Northern Ohio Valley by Robert J. Dilger, quote, oil and natural gas were discovered in the county during the 1880s. In 1896, the large Stringtown oil field, which straddled the Tyler and Wetzel County boundary, began operation. By the turn of the century, Wetzel County was one of the largest oil and natural gas producers in the state, end quote. On Friday, October 18, 1901, John married Ida Mae McKinney. Since Elizabeth did not die until March 17, 1929, it is assumed that they divorced, although no records have been found to support this. At the time, John was 61 and Ida Mae was 28. Together they would have 4 children, bringing John's total number of offspring to 16. According to the book, History of Wetzel County, West Virginia, by John C. McEldowney, Jr., at the turn of the century, Smithfield had 3 hotels, 4 dry goods and notion stores, 1 confectionery and newsstand, 1 barber shop, 1 blacksmith shop, and 1 meat market. The South Penn Oil Company also had an office in town. The Short Line Railroad. According to the West Virginia Geological Survey, County Reports and Maps, dated 1909, Quote, "This road extends from New Martinsville southeast up Fishing Creek to its head entirely across Wetzel County for a distance of 36 miles and continues on southeast into Harrison County to Clarksburg, the total length of 60 miles. It is a very important connecting link and has aided very much in the development of the great oil and gas fields of central and eastern Wetzel County. It will also play a very important part in the future development of the Pittsburgh coal field of eastern Wetzel and western Harrison counties. The construction of this road was begun about 1900 and completed in 1902. It was turned over to the B&O at the time of the purchase from the Ohio River Railroad by the former company." End quote. 1910 marks the last census to include John T. Starkey before his death. The data indicate that John and Ida have 3 children living at home. John is once again listed as a farmer, and more interestingly, it states that he can read and write. This information contradicts all data from previous census years. Ida is listed as illiterate. John T. Starkey died on Friday, September 29, 1916, at the age of 72. The cause of death is listed as dropsy. John is buried in the Kane Starkey Cemetery at the mouth of Stout's Run, just outside of Smithfield, West Virginia.
So well, I will wait up in the chariot in the morn.